Ramanuja is actually Lakshman, and then Hanuman. So it's Ramanuja, then Hanuman. That is the name of the deities. We say Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman because Ramanuja is a bit difficult. You don't remember, but actually that's how they are. They were given that name at the time of the installation, and it's a very unique way to address Sitaram, Lakshman. Because they all start with R, Rama, Ram, Ramanuja, and then Hanuman. So it's really nice. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jai Shri Shri Radharila Madhav ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Mahavishnu Goswami Gurudev ki Jai. Before we start, we will actually be reading from 3rd canto, 3rd chapter, 24th shloka. So it's easier for you to connect. 3:3:24. It's so nice to hear you play Mridanga, Prabhu. The Mridanga playing is very nice. You know, when Mridanga is played in a very consistent manner, then it actually helps the kirtan very much. And that is actually the basis of our devotional service also, that we are consistent using. We don't have to be fancy, but we should be consistent. Krishna loves persistent and consistent chanting of the holy name. That's what attracts him actually. So we can do the same thing over and over and over again, but that is what attracts Krishna. Swami Prakash Prabhu sang Hare Krishna Mahamantra just now in the same tune, over and over and over. In ISKCON we become so habituated to so many different turns and twists of tunes that our minds cannot accept repetition. Namani Anantasya Hata Trapata Patan, repeated recitation. It's very hard for us to accept that. But those of Srila Prabhupada's disciples who were with Srila Prabhupada, they will tell you that when Prabhupada sang, he would just sing Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the same tune, and he would do it over and over and over again. So consistency is very, very important. That is what attracts Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Ato Jayamudire Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So we read from the 3rd canto, 3rd chapter, 24th verse. The chapter is entitled The Lord's Pastimes Out of Vrindavan. So let's chant. Puryam kadachit kritadvi Yadu bhoja kumarakai Opita munayas shepu Bhagavan matakovida Puryam kadachit kritadvi Yadu bhoja kumarakai Opita munayas shepu Bhagavan matakovida Puryam kadachit kritadvi Yadu bhoja kumarakai Opita munayas Puryam kadachit kridati yadu Mataji's. In the city of Dwarka, Katachit, once upon a time, Kridatihi, by sporting activities, Yadu, the descendants of Yadu, Bhoja, the descendants of Bhoja, Kumarakai, princess, Kopitaha, became angry, Munayaha, the great sages, Shepuhu, cursed, Bhagavat, the personality of Godhead, Mata, desire, Kovidaha, cognizant. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Please repeat the translation. Once upon a time, great sages were made angry by the sporting activities of the princely descendants of the Yadu and Bhoja dynasties. And thus, as desired by the Lord, the sages cursed them. Let's repeat that again. Once upon a time, great sages were made angry by the sporting activities of the princely descendants of the Yadu and Bhoja dynasty. And thus, as desired by the Lord, the sages cursed them. Please hear the purport. The associates of the Lord who were playing the part of princely descendants of the Yadu and Bhoja dynasty were not ordinary living entities. It is not possible that they could offend any saintly man or sage, nor could the sages, who were all pure devotees of the Lord, be influenced to anger by any of the sporting activities of the princes born in the holy dynasties of Yadu or Bhoja, wherein the Lord Himself appeared as a descendant. The cursing of the princes by the sages was another transcendental pastime of the Lord to make a show of anger. The princes were cursed in order that one may know that even the descendants of the Lord, who could never be vanquished by any act of material nature, were subjected to the reactions of anger by great devotees of the Lord. One should therefore take great care and attention not to commit an offense at the feet of a devotee of the Lord. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radha वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरे द्विषे नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। पूर्यां कदाचित् कृतद्भिः यदुभोज कुमारकै कोपिता मुनयो शेतु भगवान मत कोविदाः। This is a very interesting verse. It speaks about the Lord's pastime out of Vrindavan. And in these shlokas, the nice, wonderful strength of Krishna is actually given. In this particular shloka, Krishna's plan and how Krishna's plan is all pervasive and all powerful. That is the main theme of this shloka. In this shloka, Shukadeva Goswami is saying that a long time ago, once upon a time, some sages became angry. With who? They became angry with the sporting activities of the descendants of the Yadu and Bhoja dynasty. Generally speaking, Prabhupada writes in the purport that these great personalities from the Yadu and Bhoja dynasty, they're very powerful. And previously actually, they were all devatas, great personalities. And they came to this world because Krishna came as Krishna. So all these personalities, they are not normal people. They are not like you and I. They are coming at the behest of the Lord. So they are very powerful. But despite being so powerful, they were also subjected to the plan. This is very important point. They were very powerful, and yet by their activities, they made the sages actually angry. Now how is it possible? At that level of devotional service, you have the great sages who are very powerful and great devotees of the Lord. And these sages are like Vishwamitra, Asita, Kanva, Durvasa, Brigu, Angira. All these are very powerful sages. Whatever they may be, they are very powerful in their austerities. And they had the ability to curse anyone. If they became angry, good luck to you. And yet, despite that, the great descendants of Bhoja, Andaka, Vrishni dynasty, they were all very precious to Krishna because they were his relatives. They were all born within his dynasty. So how is it that such great people, right, they could actually become the subject of the anger of the sage? So much so that the sages could curse them. That is the question that actually is being asked in this shloka. The answer is actually given by one line actually. In the last line, it is nicely stated, the princely descendants of the Yadu and Bhoja dynasty. Okay, I must read the whole thing because it's one line. Once upon a time, great sages were made angry by the sporting activities of the princely descendants of the Yadu and Bhoja dynasty, and thus as desired by the Lord. This is the important thing. It is the desire of the Lord. It is the desire of the Lord that finally actually made the entire Vrishni, Andaka and Bhoja dynasty, they were destroyed by the desire of the Lord. It is the desire of the Lord. So nothing happens in this world apart from his desire. This is a very important point. His desire can be manifested by his plans. His desire can be manifested by the workings of material nature. So workings of material nature is also the product of the desire of Krishna. Sometimes we think that material nature is working very powerfully, but we cannot forget that in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that even this material nature is working under my direction. So therefore, everything that is in this world is ultimately moved by the desire of the Lord. If we are in difficulty, if our children are in difficulty, if our parents are in difficulty, if our situation is in difficulty, yes, something has to do with what we have done, but ultimately that difficulty is sanctioned by Krishna. Therefore, it is a product of his desire. This is a very important point. And that is why in the purport, Prabhupada writes so nicely that the associates of Krishna, they were from the Yadu dynasty, the Bhoja dynasty, the Vrishni dynasty, the Andhaka dynasty. They were all coming and they were part of the descendants of these dynasties. Prabhupada makes it a point to say, they are not like you and me. They are not ordinary persons. Therefore, what Prabhupada is trying to say is, in the ordinary course of activities, these great personalities would never offend devotees of the Lord. So this is the important point today, that if we really think our devotional service is advanced, actually one symptom of advancement of our devotional service is that we never are offensive to the devotees of the Lord. This is very important. The devotees of the Lord are never offensive to the devotees of the Lord. They are not even offensive to the living entities. They are very careful not to offend anyone. Why? Because the nature of such a devotee is nirapeksha. Nirapeksha means one who has no other desire except the desire to serve Krishna. If there is no motive in our hearts except to serve Krishna, then very automatically we don't offend anyone. Because we become very flexible with everybody, isn't it? Whatever that is, we see Krishna in everyone. We see the hand of Krishna in everything. Therefore, we are very flexible. Vaishnava, Maharaj used to tell us that Vaishnava and the living entity, they can be compared to a tree and a blade of grass. The Vaishnava is like a blade of grass. When the wind blows very strongly, or when there is tsunami, the blade of grass is never torn, never destroyed. If you read very carefully the tsunamis that happened in Aceh, Sumatra and all these places, the trees were destroyed, but the grass was never destroyed. Why? Because the nature of the grass is simply to bend. Bend according to the flow of time and circumstances. If the wind blows in this way, the grass blows in that way. And therefore, it is never destroyed because it is able to bend. That's why Maharaj said, if we are not humble in our nature, then we will not be able to bend before others. Then what will happen is Yamaraj and the forces of time, they won't make us bend, they will make us break. And that is the nature of the tree. The tree is very powerful. If you try driving a car into a tree which is not advisable, what will happen is that the car will actually be gone and the tree will stay. It will stay. I've seen trucks go into the tree and the trucks don't look very good after they bang the tree. Tree is looking very good actually. So this is the power of the tree. But even though the tree is so powerful that material things cannot affect the tree, when a great powerful force of nature hits the world, the trees can just break because they don't have the capacity to bend. You see? So this is a very important point. A devotee of the Lord is always ready to bend before others. They are always ready to be remorseful. It is my mistake. Supposing we have difference of agreement, Maharaj told us, if you really value friendship, if you really value Vaishnava relationship, Maharaj said then the Vaishnava, even though he is not in the wrong, he will say, I am sorry. He will say, I am sorry. And by saying, I am sorry, he ends the matter. He just ends the matter. So if you are right, and if you are right and you don't say sorry, that means people will say you are a principled person. If you are wrong and you don't say sorry, people will say you are a very proud person. But if you are right and you say you are sorry, Maharaj said you are a person who values the value of Vaishnava relationships. It's a very important point. Regulate your relationships in that way and you will be very peaceful. 3 scenarios, right? The third scenario is the most important scenario. Even if you are right or wrong, doesn't matter. Just bow down. There must be some reason Krishna is putting you in this situation. Parikshit Maharaj, if he followed the first 2 principles, he will be fighting with Shamika Rishi till today. Right? Of course he would have been cursed, he would have died. But otherwise the fight will continue today. Because I cannot say sorry and you can't say sorry. So we keep fighting and fighting and fighting. But in that fighting, Krishna is forgotten. Our mind is always on that person. The moment the person passes us, we become disturbed. We can't take it. Because I cannot say sorry and you can't say sorry. And we are offending each other. So here, Prabhupada is saying, how come the Vrishni dynasty, they were so powerful. They were not the kind of people to offend people. Why is it that they could do this? Actually, Maharaj made an important point also. Maharaj said that these descendants of Vrishni dynasty, they were all actually Devatas. If you read the 10th canto, most of them were Devatas. And generally speaking, Devatas are not in the category of pure devotees. Somewhere, somehow, the Devatas will do something that they will get themselves into trouble. So somehow that tendency is there. And that is why, by the plan of Krishna, Krishna arranged that these great descendants should somehow offend the sages. It happens. Why is it that Indradyumna Maharaj was seated very peacefully, and then, Agastya Muni should come and become upset with him, and then curse him to become elephant? It was no fault of his. But what did he do? He didn't fight with the Muni, he didn't fight with the Rishi, he simply accepted it. He accepted it. When Rantideva was going to finish his fasting, the Devatas came and tested him, isn't it? They came first to take all the foods, then they asked for the water. Then when there was nothing left, whatever water that was left also they asked for that. But Rantideva did not become upset with them. And when they revealed themselves to be Devatas, even then he was not upset with them. If I was in the position and I was tested that way, I would curse the Devatas and say, why should you test me until like this? But they didn't do that. Parikshit Maharaj did not curse Shamika Rishi. He did not curse Shringi Brahmana, even though he was really powerful. Right? He did not. Na asya tat pratikurvanti. Why is it that no counteraction is best counteraction? Because he saw the hand of Krishna. This is very important point. He saw the hand of Krishna. And that's why Prabhupada writes here, the cursing of the princes by the sages was another transcendental pastime of the law of God. So this proves another point that's very important. Krishna's transcendental pastime is not always enacted only personally by him. It is very often enacted through his devotees. Through his devotees. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord include the pastimes of the devotees. It's what you call a package deal. If you get Krishna, you have to get the devotees. If you get the devotees, you have to get Krishna. You can't get out of it. It's always together. This is the point we have to understand. Now, Krishna in Bhagavatam, in the 2nd canto, 4th chapter, he is known as Bhuyo Namasat Vijane Chidesata Asambhavaya Akila Sattva Murtaye. Asambhavaya Akila Sattva Murtaye. Shukadev Goswami describes this great quality of Krishna, that Krishna comes into this material world to check the atheistic advancement of the living entities. This is a very important function, right? A very important characteristic of Krishna. He comes to relieve the distress of the devotees. But how does he do that? By checking the atheistic advancement of the non-devotees. But not only does he check the atheistic advancement of the non-devotees, but Bhagavatam tells us that he also checks the atheistic advancement in the hearts of those who are struggling with devotional service. That includes us also. Maharaj said that sometimes in our hearts, even though we are practicing devotional service, it's very common for us at some point to lose faith in Krishna. Or sometimes, we lose faith in the process of devotional service. Or we become so angry with devotees that we offend them. And when that happens, our devotional service is actually affected. So sometimes because of criticism and finding fault with others, our devotional service becomes demonic, in the sense that we actually exhibit demonic tendencies instead of devotee tendencies. When that happens, Krishna comes into our hearts, not just the demons' hearts, because this is demonic. He comes into our hearts and he checks the advancement of that temperament. He stops it. He stops it. And this is what Krishna has done to so many devotees. He does that. So that is why we must be very, very careful to allow Krishna to check us. That is very important. Because we have the free will to follow Krishna. And if we do not accept the teachings of Krishna, And if we don't accept the teachings of our spiritual masters, and if we don't accept what they tell us is right for us, then we are not checking the atheistic advancement in our hearts. We are not. Sometimes, we may not, our spiritual masters may not be in this world anymore. Srila Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj departed from this world in 2010. It is very easy after the spiritual master leaves for us to think that, who is there to check us now? Who will check us? My god brothers and I, my god sisters and I, we are all on the same level. They are not very great, they are not very advanced. So I will do what I want, right? I will just look to Shastras. You can look to Shastras, but what happened to Guru and Sadhu? Where is Guru and Sadhu? It is very dangerous just to look to Shastra because we can use Shastras to suit what we want. It's very dangerous. I can find something in Shastra, take it out of context and tell you this is how I must live. But where is Sadhu to confirm that? And where is Guru to confirm that? So it's very important that we understand that even if our spiritual master is not present before us, we are still guided by his Vani and we are guided by our Siksha Gurus. And who are our Siksha Gurus? Everyone is a Siksha Guru. Everyone, the person seated next to you, he or she is your Siksha Guru. But don't come and tell me that I am my own Siksha Guru. That's why it is the person next to you, not you. Right? The person next to you, turn to your right, turn to your left, look behind, look in front, they are your Siksha Gurus. But you are not your Siksha Guru. If you are, then it's trouble. Dangerous. We are not Siksha Gurus to ourselves. We cannot be. Right? We cannot say that, like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, just put picture of his Guru Maharaj and take sannyas. It will create havoc in our society. So that is why we must remember one thing, that when Krishna comes into this world, he checks the atheistic advancements in the hearts of not just the non-devotees, but also the devotees, the struggling devotees. And this is what Krishna showed here. Krishna decimated the Kaurava dynasty. He did that. We all know that. And why did he do that? Because they were going to put too much burden on Bhumi Devi. And so according to his plan, Maya Vaite Nihata Purva Evam Nimitta Matra Bhavya Savya Sachi. According to his plan, he just decided to finish off all the Kauravas who were actually on the other side. And all the Pandavas actually survived. Now that he had finished off the Kaurava dynasty because they were too much burden, Krishna was going to wind down his pastimes. But Krishna in Krishna book and Krishna in Bhagavatam, he realized one thing, that when I wind down my pastime, if the Vrishni dynasty and the Andhaka dynasty and the Bhoja dynasty, if all of them were still here after I've gone, then they will also create havoc. They will also create havoc. Why? Because they are also very powerful. And by nature they are Kshatriyas. And after a while, Mother Earth will be burdened again. So this is another very important point. See, Krishna alone is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even great devotees of the Lord, if they are not very careful, pride in this material world can overtake us. And we can become so powerful that we cause burden to others. Sometimes Maharaj told us that when a devotee is doing very well, that is the most dangerous point for the devotee. Because at that point of time, the devotee can become so consumed by pride that that devotee becomes a burden to other people, becomes a source of difficulty to other people. It happens. It happens. And we don't realize that we are becoming a source of difficulty to others. We don't. So when that happens, Krishna will check us. He will check us. And that is why Krishna decided that all these great, my kinsmen, my relatives, they are very powerful. They are very nice. But now before I leave, I have to finish them off also. Because if I leave and they are here, then Bhumi Devi will be too much in difficulty. This is another important point. How kind and sensitive is Krishna to the needs of his devotees. Just see, Krishna was so protective over Bhumi Devi because he appreciated her service. Bhumi Devi's service is considered one of the greatest service that a devotee can do for Krishna. Why? Because she's the person you are stepping on. She's the person that's allowing you to do all your pastimes. She's allowing you to do everything. And before that, the dynasties were on her. Before that, all the Pandavas and the Kauravas, they were fighting each other on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. They were fighting on Bhumi Devi. All the things that happened, it happened on Bhumi Devi. So Krishna was very particular that actually Bhumi Devi should not be compromised. And that is why he arranged things in such a way that he, by his own plan, Yadrichaya, by his unknown plan, through the ordinary course of activities, he planned that these great powerful Vrishni and Yadu dynasty members, they should offend the sages. And so one day, and that's why he says here, once upon a time, the young boys of the Yadu dynasty, they dressed up one of the young boys, Samba, and they told him, let's have a little joke with all the sages. And what did he do? What did they do? They dressed up Samba as a young lady, and they made him look like he was actually pregnant. They put a pillow actually below the sari and brought him before the sages of the dynasties who were all there. They were gathered, they were great souls. And they bowed before the sages and they said, great sages, you're all very, very powerful. Please do one thing. Please look at our dear friend Samba. They didn't say it was his name Samba because he was dressed like a lady. Please tell us whether it is a boy or a girl. Girl. Okay, fine. So they asked the sages, is it a boy or is it a girl? But it was a pillow actually. It was not a girl, it was not a boy, it was a pillow. But the sages became very upset, right? They said, how dare you try to play with us? See, the problem with all these munis and sages is, they take things very seriously. Right? They take life very seriously. Have you met such people? You can't joke with them, you can't smile at them. They're so dira, they just stare at you. In ISKCON we have a lot of people like that, they just stare at you. You don't know what to do with them. And so the sages also, they became upset. Why? Because Krishna was arranging this whole thing. As Paramatma, Krishna made the sages become highly impatient and highly sensitive. And so the sages did not see it as a joke. They said, how dare you be so impudent with us? No etiquette. You're not taking care of us in a nice way. And so the sages said that the child that you carry is not a boy or a girl. This child that you carry will be the cause of the destruction of your dynasty. And now they panicked. There is no child. There's supposed to be a pillow. How can the pillow be the cause of the end of our dynasty? So quickly Samba opened his sari and they wanted to see whether the pillow was there. But to their shock and horror, they saw a mace. The kind of mace that Bhima would carry, Duryodhan would carry, Hanumanji is carrying, that kind of mace. And the mace fell out, and when it fell on the ground, Bhagavatam said, it caused the ground to tremble, and the noise was like thunder. Everybody's heart skipped a beat, and they thought this is a very bad sign. How can our dynasty, which is always related to Krishna, how can our dynasty end? And this is the next lesson. Sometimes we think that when we wear dhoti, kurta, and we put tilak, and we are chanting, and many years we are in ISKCON, and eating prasadam, and preaching, and we have taken diksha, we think, how can it be that we will be put in difficulty? How can it be? Cannot be. Can't be. This is what they are saying. This is what we feel. We think, how can it be that Krishna will forsake us? But it was not Krishna forsaking us. It was not. It was not. It was Krishna planning for this. And so what happened? They panicked. They took the mace and they brought that iron club, they brought it to Ugrasena. And when Ugrasena saw this, he thought, we must do something to stop this. In other words, they were trying to stop whatever curse that the sages had planned on them. It was a push, In other words, it was a counteraction. It was counteraction. So Ugrasena thought, let's find a material solution to a problem. And he said, you just take the iron club, you go and ground it. You make it very, very ground. I don't know what they did. They put it through the blender or something, but they ground this maize very, very into fine bits. And he said, throw it into the ocean. Because when it goes into the ocean, it will just go into the ocean. It will get absorbed. It will go into the depths. Nothing will happen. Don't worry. So they did that. They made it so fine. Every part of the club became fine except for one part, which couldn't become fine. It was just little bit bigger, maybe few cm bigger. And they thought, never mind, we have done everything already, isn't it? Just throw that part a little further into the ocean. Why further means it won't come back. But they did not realize that all the small parts, they went deep into the ocean, but the ocean waves pushed them all back. And they all came back to the shores of Prabhash Kshetra. And there they started growing as reed. You all know reeds. Reeds are very sharp kind of grasses. They grow very long. And because this is actually coming from the club, that would be the source of the destruction of the Yadu dynasty, these reeds became extra sharp, extra powerful. We plan one thing, and Krishna plans another. Ugrasena, the great devotee of the Lord, he was planning against the plan of the Lord. He was trying very hard to somehow come out of this plan. Krishna, we have to find some way. You know, in India we always say, Prabhu, just adjust, 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 isn't it? Adjusting is like mantra, isn't it? Just adjust. So Ugrasena was thinking, okay, the sages cursed us, we'll adjust. You go and just, grind the club, throw it into the water. Haribol, everything is done. Haribol, yes, true. It came back. It came back and it grew. And that one piece, which is just 2-3 cm, it entered deep into the ocean. It entered into the mouth of a fish. The fish thought, because looking at that, it looked like something that could be eatable. So the fish swallowed it. And that fish, out of thousands and millions of fishes in the ocean, was eventually caught on the fishing hook by the hunter Jara. And he would take it. And when he cut the fish because he wanted to eat the fish, he saw, hey, this is a nice little piece of metal. What can I use it for? Yukta Vairagya. Use anything and everything in the service of the Lord. And so Jara became the instrument, right, of Krishna. And Krishna gave him the intelligence that instead of throwing this away, I'm a hunter. I'm a hunter. And this would be the perfect arrowhead for one of my arrows. It will be a special arrow. So he was thinking in his head that surely this must be the reason. Krishna must have given me this for a reason. So I will save this at the right time. He had no idea that that same arrow will pierce the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why Krishna? Because Krishna categorized himself also under the Yadu dynasty. He's so fair that he thought that if the Yadu dynasty must be wound up, I also must be part of the winding up plan. So let me also be part of this drama. See, Krishna is so humble that he did not take himself out of the equation. He thought, I was born into this dynasty. I have appeared in this dynasty. It is my dynasty. If the dynasty is going to go down, I will also go down with the dynasty. How exemplary was Krishna. And so that little piece that should have been ground was not ground. And this was the plan of Krishna. And so Ugrasena and all the residents, they sat back, like I'm sitting back. And they thought everything is fine now. Don't worry, everything is fine. But then by Krishna's mercy, he arranged that very soon he wanted to wind down his pastime. And so he arranged that everybody from Dwarka, they should all go for yatra. Where? They should go to Prabhash Kshetra. Why to Prabhash Kshetra? Because that is where all the reeds are. And Krishna wanted to finish everybody off there. He didn't want to finish them off in Dwarka. He wanted to finish it off in Prabhash Kshetra. Right? So every time there is a yatra, like today, we should also think that we are planning something. But where the yatra goes, what will happen in the yatra, we must be ready to accept Krishna's plan. This is why I'm speaking this verse, because we should be ready in the right mood. Yatra doesn't mean your yatra. Yatra means his yatra. His yatra means his plan. We may plan something. We may plan to be in Dwarka. But Dwarka Yatra means that when you go to Dwarka, you submit to the plan of the Lord. That is the real meaning of Yatra. Yatra means to go for a long walk, but the walk is according to the plan of Krishna. That is Yatra. That is Yatra. When Vidura went for Yatra, Maharaj told me, he went for Yatra not whimsically. He went for Yatra because he had put down his bow and he had decided that the external energy of the Lord was supreme and he was going to leave the palace because no longer was he needed. And therefore, he agreed to submit to the plan of Krishna. That is why he was qualified to go for Yatra. So if we want to go for Yatra, we must be ready to go with the plan of Krishna. That is Yatra. You and I may plan so many things, but ultimately, only his plan will work. Whatever time we are going to reach Porbandar, only that time we will reach there. If we are going to go to Jambavan's cave, if Krishna wants, we will go into the cave. If Krishna wants, only we can come out of the cave. If not, it's not possible. Not possible. I remember in Nasik, we went to this cave also. In Nasik also there was this cave. Maharaj told us to go to cave. And I remember one devotee, the cave was very narrow. And before we left, Maharaj was saying, that when you go into the cave, make sure you can come out of the cave. But this devotee was a little bit heavy. So everybody went inside. He went in, but he could not come out. Because he got stuck, you see. And the problem is, if he was just stuck, it's okay. But all the devotees before him, they also got stuck because he cannot come out. So they were all in anxiety. And many of them were very young. My children were there also. They were all stuck. They were thinking how to come out. So they were trying to push him. And others from the other side were trying to pull him. And finally he came out. So we have one plan, but Krishna has another plan. This is something we have to remember. So therefore, the beginning of the end of the Yadu dynasty was Krishna's plan. Krishna made it such that the Yadus had to offend the devotees. But now Prabhupada says in the purport that we must understand one very important thing. That in any situation, Krishna wants to make a point. That when you offend the great devotee of the Lord, then whatever you plan for never goes according to plan. This is a very important point. If you offend the devotee of the Lord, whatever you want to plan for your betterment, for your improvement, it will never go according to your plan. Never. Krishna makes that principle. He always makes it a principle. He made it a principle here. Another principle he made it was in Parikshit Maharaj's case. Parikshit Maharaj put a garland of dead snake on an equally exalted devotee, Shamika Rishi. And the moment he did that, he was cursed. Never mind that he is Parikshit Maharaj, but the principle remains the same. That if you offend a great devotee of the Lord, be prepared for consequences. Be prepared for consequences. So we should be very careful. Now the next question, of course, we should ask ourselves is, who is a great devotee of the Lord? Who? But if you look at the last line of today's purport, this is what Prabhupada says. One should therefore take great care and attention not to commit an offense at the feet of a devotee. Not great devotee, not pure devotee, just devotee of the Lord. So that means everybody seated here, the person on your right, the person on your left, behind you and in front of you. We must take care not to offend them. Because if we do it, Krishna will not be pleased. And if he is not pleased, we will be in difficulty. We will be in difficulty. We cannot think that we are in difficulty, because we are very exalted and this is just the hand of Krishna. No, we are not exalted. We offended someone. That's why we are in difficulty. That is how we should remember. We are not at the level of Parikshit Maharaj. We are in difficulty because we have done something that is not right in devotional service. That is the mood of a devotee. That is the mood of a devotee. So that is why Krishna then decided that let it be that the hunter will take the arrowhead, he will actually one day finish me, and he will finish the entire dynasty. In the 11th canto, 1st chapter, 24th verse, Prabhupada, very nicely, it is actually nicely stated by Prabhupada's disciples who actually translated the Bhagavatam. Knowing full well the significance of these events, the Supreme Lord, though capable of reversing the Brahmana's curse, did not wish to do so. In 11.124, that point is given in 3.3.24 today. And that is found in exactly that shloka. The Supreme Lord could reverse the curse of the Brahmanas, but he decided not to. Why? Because in the form of time, he had actually gladly, the word is gladly, he had gladly sanctioned the events. Because the Yadu dynasty had become quarrelsome with each other. They had become too strong. And once we are too strong, we will fight with each other. When we are too much on the high point, we will forget where we have come from. At that point of time, Krishna will cut us down. Cut us down. So these are the points that we must take from this shloka. Krishna did not even spare his family. That is one point. Krishna did not even spare his family. His plans are supreme to everyone, beyond everyone. And he will spare no one if that is his plan. And we have to accept his plan. No one, it is stated so nicely, no one can defy the orders of Krishna. No one. In 5.1.12 of Srimad Bhagavatam, this point is emphatically stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Natasya kasche tapasa vidyayava na yoga viryena manishayava naivartha dharme parata svatova kritam vihantum tanubret vibhuya. Very important shloka. 5.1.12. It is stated there that one cannot avoid the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You cannot avoid it. If Krishna orders it, you cannot avoid it. And Shukadeva Goswami goes on. He says you cannot avoid it by the strength of your austerities. You cannot avoid it by your exalted Vedic education. You cannot avoid the order of Krishna by mystic power. You cannot avoid the order of Krishna by your physical prowess. You cannot avoid the order of Krishna by your intellectual activities. You cannot use the power of religion on Krishna because he is religion personified. You cannot use your material opulence. Krishna, I have $1 million in the bank. I want to give it to Rajkot. Please save me. No. He will take your money, but he won't save you because it is his plan. So you cannot bribe Krishna. You cannot use material opulences on Krishna, nor by any other means, either by yourself or with the help of others. You cannot turn to people and say, please help me. If the plan of Krishna is that you cannot be helped, nobody can help you. And finally, Shukadeva Goswami says, nobody can defy the orders of Krishna. That is not possible for any living being, right from Brahma down to the end. It's a frightening verse actually, isn't it? No, it's very frightening because he has covered everything. You know, Shukadeva Goswami would have been a very good lawyer because there is nothing here that he has not touched. Any which way you go, you cannot defy the orders of the Lord. You can't. And that is the law. So that is the first lesson that we learn. Second lesson we learn, when we display any envy or ridicule of the devotees of the Lord, like how Samba and gang, you know, they tried to play a fool with the devotees. They tried to insult them. They tried to belittle them. They tried to minimize a devotee. When you try to do that, it is very clear that your spiritual qualifications will decrease along with your piety. It will decrease. Your spiritual qualifications will leave you. So therefore, we have to be very careful how we behave with the devotees. All the product of our remembrance and our sadhana, they could all go automatically, Prabhus and Matajis, just because we have offended someone. Just because we have offended someone. Because karma was so offensive by nature, at the time when he was supposed to remember all the mantras, Krishna removed his memory. He removed his memory. This is a very important point. So this is second lesson to be learned. The third lesson to be learned is that when there is a break in the etiquette towards the devotees of the Lord, the Supreme Lord becomes ill-disposed towards that person. Etiquette is so important. Vaishnava Sadachara. We must learn how to behave with each other. That's why we offer obeisances to each other. That's why we speak in loving manner with each other. That's why we are careful not to be so familiar with each other. There must always be some distance. Distance is not bad in devotional service. Maharaj said, good neighbors build strong fences. When you have a strong fence, it is not that you are far away from me, I'm far away from you. No. It is because that fence is there so that your cow doesn't go into his grass, and the cow will eat and cause misunderstanding. No. How many times devotees have become close to each other on a material level and then misunderstanding and they break away. That is why we must take care of each other. A little distance in devotional service is always good for Vaishnava relationship. Don't mix that up with material conception of relationship. This is very important. Fourth point that's really nice is that a mosquito can be very close to you, right? Mosquito can be seated on you, but doesn't mean mosquito is very, very pleasurable as company. Frankly, it's opposite. When the mosquito is on you, it is not pleasurable, it's very painful, very painful. Actually, in this weather, you're not feeling so much mosquitoes, right? Nobody is really looking like they're bitten by mosquitoes. If you come here during summer, Rajkot mosquitoes are like commandos, you know. They are very powerful. First, they are big. Second, they can penetrate even nets. They can. And if you try to put a net and make sure that no mosquito is going to come in, I guarantee you, before you zip up and put yourself in, 3 mosquitoes have come in. And when they come in very quietly. You don't know they are in. You lie down, you are settled, you think now I'm safe. Then you see other mosquitoes outside trying to come in and you feel very safe. Until you realize 3 mosquitoes are already inside with you. And they are harassing you like anything. So the point here is this, that the Bhoja dynasty, the Andhaka dynasty, Vrishni dynasty, to the extent that they were serving the Lord, they were not like mosquitoes. They were very, very helpful to Krishna's mission. But they were very close to Krishna. But the moment they became troublesome like mosquitoes, even though they were seated on the lap of Krishna, Krishna decided they must be eliminated. They must be eliminated. This brings to a very important point, you know, that Krishna as time, his nature is, he's cruel. This you must accept. Krishna by nature is personification of compassion. But in this material world as time, it is his nature to be cruel. It is his nature to be cruel. Because if he is not cruel, you will never want to leave this world. Am I right? If he was not cruel, we'll become very happy in this world. We will not leave this world. His cruelty is his kindness in this material world. Please remember that. His cruelty is actually his kindness in this material world. It is his kindness that Bhagavatam has to stop soon and you must take prasadam. It is his kindness. Otherwise you'll all think, when is he going to stop? It is his kindness. It is his kindness that everything has to end. Everything starts, but everything has to end also. So that is why Krishna, whenever he enacts his plan, do not think that his plan must always be kind, the way we think it must be. Very often his plans in this material world are very unkind, because they are meant to take you out of your attachment. Because we are so attached, we can't come out easily. We have to be ripped out, you know, we have to be pulled out. And yet that can only happen on the basis of time. Only on the basis of time. Na chasya kaschid dayato, na dvesho na cha bandavaha, avisati apramato asau, pramattam janam antakrit. In the 3rd canto, 29th chapter, 39th verse, this point is given. It is so nicely stated by Kapila Dev to his mother, no one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is his enemy and no one is dear to him. Therefore, no one is Krishna's friend and no one is Krishna's enemy. Even the Yadu dynasty was not his friend. Not his friend. Therefore, what must we do then? Kapila Dev says that Krishna gives inspiration to those who remember him, but he gives destruction and death to those who have forgotten him. The Vrishni dynasty had become so proud that they have forgotten that they are servants of Krishna. Time for them to end. If we forget that we are servants of Krishna, time for us to end. It is also ending. This we must remember. So Krishna's plan is always supreme. And those who cannot know Krishna's plan, like all of us, we may ask ourselves, how do we know Krishna's plan then? To end today, how do we know Krishna's plan? So difficult. Nahi asya karhichit rajan, puman veda viditsitam, yad vijignasaya yuktaha, muyanti kavayo bihi. Bhishmadev says, to the Pandavas, that nahi asya karhichit rajan. Even the great sages, everyone, no one can understand the plan of Krishna. No one can understand. Even Rukmini Mata could not understand the plan of Krishna. Is he going to come and save me? Is he not? Is he going to come and save me? Is he not? And then, why is Krishna talking to me in such a way that he's telling me to leave him? No one can understand the plan of the Lord. Why does Krishna do this? Sudama could not understand why I came all the way from Porbandar to Dwaraka, but he's not asking me, do you want something? Do you want something? No one can understand. Krishna never acts according to your plan. He only acts according to his plan. You always act according to your plan, but Krishna always destroys your plan. This is the formula. I can't repeat it because I don't know what I said. But it is there. Something is there. But that's what it is, you see. That's what it is. His plan is supreme. Ultimately, it will always be supreme. But Prabhupada gives us a clue. In 1134 of Srimad Bhagavatam, or Bhagavad Gita, in the purport, Prabhupada says, no one can understand the plan of Krishna. But the plans of the pure devotees of the Lord are as good as the plan of Krishna. So if you want to follow the plan of Krishna, follow the plans of the devotees of the Lord. Especially our spiritual masters in Srila Prabhupada. Follow their plans. Follow what they have planned for you. That plan is eternal, it is relishable, and it is ever fresh. It is Navam Navam. If you follow their plans, Maharaj told me one time, Devaki, if you follow my plan, then every day is Maho Utsavam. Every day is Maho Utsavam. Every day in your life, it is a festival. Just follow my plan. That's all. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Gurudev ki, Thai Gaura Premanande, Sri Sri Radha Neela Madhav ki, Jagannath Baladev Subhadramani ki, Ramaram Ramanuja Hanuman ji ki, Thai Gaura Premanande.
BY DEVAKINANDAN Prabhu ki,
Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki. Vaishya Sarvapuru. Oh, he's here. Vaishya Sarvapuru? Yes. Okay, we need volunteers to go down to help in serving prasadam. Right? Okay. Now. And 1 o'clock we should be ready in the afternoon, 1 sharp, to be able to move off. 1 sharp. Don't do, 1:10, 1:15. We should be early, even if bus is late. That's okay, but we should be early. Yes, Prabhu, anything else? Okay, very good. Thank you. This is technology. So please go down. Prasadam is ready. Today is Ekadashi. We are serving it.